Nevadans are battle-born, but lately we've been tested like never before. So when COVID came to Nevada, Senator Cortez Masto went to work. She got loans for small businesses that saved 500,000 Nevada jobs and worked with President Biden to provide stimulus checks and tax cuts. Senator Cortez Masto got new funding to keep Nevada's first responders on the job, too. Call Senator Cortez Masto at 202-224-3542 and tell her to keep delivering relief for Nevada. Paid for by Majority Forward.
Walmart.com is launching deals for days starting at 7 p.m. on June 20th with huge savings on the hottest items. Up to 40% off select tech, up to 50% off select toys, and up to 60% off summer fashion items. Get the deals while supplies last. That's deals for days starting June 20th at Walmart.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 446. Look, Ghislaine Maxwell has had 3 different attempts at bail. All 3 of them have been denied. Well, today, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has also slapped down the request for bail and served Ghislaine Maxwell and her legal team with a big, fat L. That's right, folks. Ghislaine Maxwell has been denied bail for the 4th time, as literally hundreds of thousands of Americans are in jail right now who probably haven't even gotten 1 attempt at bail yet. And that's probably a conservative number. So, Maxwell and her team, and the narrative that they're trying to pitch about the conditions in the jail and how Maxwell is being treated and singled out by the guards, it's falling on deaf ears. Now, not only did Judge Nathan's court tell David Marcus that his arguments were doo-doo, but the appellate court, the federal court, also said the same exact thing. Now, how long have I been telling you folks that these guys are on the wrong course here? They should be focused on this trial, and they should be focused on providing witnesses that are going to attest to Ghislaine Maxwell's version of things, instead of all of this BS. This is what they do, right? This is how it works. The loopholes, the technicalities, this is how the rich man, the men and women of always, as Pablo Escobar would call them, how they always skate by, how they never end up doing any time or being punished, because they have all of these loopholes. And when you're paying $2,000, $1,500 an hour for lawyers, well, there's plenty of paralegals and specialists and all of the rest to dive in and find these loopholes, find these technicalities. And they're doing their damnedest to do that here as well. But they're being met at every stop by a relatively aggressive strategy by the prosecution. Now, the 8 charges, it's certainly not small potatoes, that's for sure. But in my estimation, in my opinion, and again, remember, I'm not a journalist, right? I don't break news here. We talk about the news here. I analyze the news here, we curate it, and I break it down as I see it. But from where I'm sitting, this whole entire situation, this whole entire strategy that they're using is not going to work. It's not the right way to use these vast amounts of resources, in my opinion. Because I don't think that even with the little technicalities that they've been able to find here, that they have any sort of, ground that's defensible. Every position they have is untenable, folks. And without witnesses coming forward and speaking on the veracity of Ghislaine Maxwell's statements and backing up, corroborating what she has to say, then without a technicality, without a loophole, I honestly don't see any way for them to get their client off. And that's just the reality of it, right? That's just the harsh reality of the situation. Now, again, I'm certainly not a lawyer. I didn't go to Harvard. UNLV certainly is not Harvard. And before that, the Community College of Southern Nevada certainly isn't Harvard. But from where I'm sitting and from the way I see things and from what we have seen so far, the way these judges have conducted themselves, these dudes and ladies better start focusing on the trial and put this bail nonsense behind them. And now they're going to have to make a big decision, folks. Without her being bailed out here, remember, if they push this trial, then it just extends her time in lockup. If I was innocent of these charges, I would have witnesses to come forward and speak on my behalf. At least I would hope, right? And I'd be ready to go for the trial on July 12th. I wouldn't want to spend one more day than I have to in that disgusting-ass facility if there's something I can do about it. And if that means getting a trial on July 12th as opposed to pushing it back into 2022, you better damn well believe I'd be tap dancing into the judge's office asking for that trial. So now they've bloviated. You know, they've taken a couple of shots. They've taken a couple of swings for the fences here. Everything's fallen short. So now they're going to have to really prepare and get ready for trial time. And I honestly don't know if the Suck Squad here is up to the task. So let's jump into this article from the Miami Herald, and let's see what they have to say about Ghislaine Maxwell being denied bail for the fourth time. This article was authored by Ben Weeder. Headline: For the fourth time, Ghislaine Maxwell is denied release from horrific Brooklyn jail. And horrific in quotes. Ghislaine Maxwell's fourth request to be released from federal custody was met with the same response as her 3 previous tries. Denied. And as it should have been, right? There, like we read in the article from Adam Klasfeld, there was nothing as far as an error in the decision made by Judge Nathan. And that's what the appellate court would have to find, an error in her ruling within the law, right? And they certainly didn't find anything like that. And anyone paying attention could see that there was nothing like that there. The government should be worried about Maxwell being a flight risk. They shouldn't be worried about that. We should just set that precedent, huh? That we're not worried about people with dual citizenships and we just let them bail out and disappear into the wind, go out on the lam. It's honestly ludicrous. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit rejected an appeal by Maxwell of prior decisions by U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan to deny her bail. And again, Judge Nathan looked at all of the facts that have been provided to her, and in her estimation, and in turn the estimation of the government, Ghislaine Maxwell is a flight risk, point blank, period. That's where we're at. Those are the facts on the ground, and no Twitter site set up to try and contradict that is going to make a difference, or website, or anything like that, right? Words are wind, bro. Facts are facts. And unfortunately for the Maxwell team, they don't seem to have any of the facts on their side. The decision followed a roughly 30-minute hearing Monday that largely focused on Maxwell's complaint that she is subjected to regular wellness checks throughout the night that prevent her from sleeping. The appeals court said in its ruling that Maxwell should address these concerns to Nathan. And I agree, again, like I said earlier several times now. If she's not suicidal, take her off of suicide watch. That doesn't mean you have to decrease the scrutiny around her or the security around her. Install some cameras in the cell that make sure that zoom in and you can make sure she's breathing that way. They have cameras that are working on Mars right now. Don't tell me there's not a camera that the government can't pull out of storage somewhere that could be zoomed in on Maxwell's cell. And in that case, then you would split the baby. You'd give the defense a little bit of a victory. But at the same time, what you're really doing is respecting an inmate's rights. And it doesn't matter if it's Maxwell or anybody else. I think the camera serves as well as somebody coming in every 15 minutes, no? Again, what I'm saying here is let's not give them any loopholes. Let's not give them any technicalities. Let's not give them any crybaby shit to rest their hat on. Maxwell's lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, argued in the hearing that Maxwell's conditions made it impossible for her to prepare for trial, which is currently scheduled for July. Yeah, but you know what? That's such a BS argument, because how many other people are currently in the same predicament? Isolation, solitary confinement, and how many of those people have the resources of Ghislaine Maxwell? Not very many. Not very many people on this planet have those resources. I forget the number. What is it? Like the poorest amongst us in the Western world is still in like the top 10% of wealth in the whole entire world? I mean, that's an insane number. But Maxwell's on a different level, right? Now, don't get me wrong, she's not a weigh your money type of person. But she certainly has more money than I'll ever imagine having in my life. That's certainly the case for sure. So, I don't understand how she could possibly think that she's being treated any different than anybody else. She's being treated better than other people. I've said that from the very beginning, and I stand by that. If I was in jail in her position, I wouldn't want to be around other people, sweaty-ass, stinky people who want to do God knows what to you. Pass. Put me in alone. Give me a few books. Let me talk to my lawyers every now and then. Can I write? Can I start writing a story? Can I, you know what I'm saying? Who the hell wants to be in general population in prison? Certainly not me. What are you going to make friends? Breaking news, Ghislaine and Oscar Marcus. There's no tea parties in prison, all right? Certainly not the tea parties that Maxwell is used to. For the last 10 months, she has been held in horrific conditions that make it impossible for her to prepare for her trial. And again, cry me a river, right? The ambulance is coming. It's a ridiculous argument considering how many other people are facing the same, if not worse, situation for a lot less of horrific crimes, mind you. How many people are in there for drug crimes? Possession or intent to distribute. You mean to tell me Ghislaine Maxwell should get 4 bail attempts, but the local inner city crack dealer doesn't even get a shot at 1? Now, I'm not saying the crack dealer is a good person here, folks, right? I'm certainly not championing being the champion of a guy out there, whipping crack rock on the corner or whatever. But in the eyes of the justice system, it doesn't matter. It should be equal. Justice is justice, and that's that. But why should somebody who is in jail for a drug crime languish away while Ghislaine Maxwell gets 4 different shots? Or somebody in there for a blue-collar crime or whatever. So the whole entire point is Maxwell's not being singled out. The whole system is absolutely effed up. The whole system is broken. You certainly will never get an argument out of me about that. But these are the parameters that we have to play in, right? This is the playing field. These are the rules. We didn't make these rules up. Ghislaine Maxwell's buddies did. Well, guess what? You made the bed. Now you have to sleep in it. But in a preview of Tuesday's ruling, the 3-judge panel pushed back on this argument, asking whether Maxwell's conditions and situation...
Walmart.com is launching deals for days starting at 7 p.m. on June 20th with huge savings on the hottest items. Up to 40% off select tech, up to 50% off select toys, and up to 60% off summer fashion items. Get the deals while supplies last. That's deals for days starting June 20th at Walmart.com.
Truly were unique. Of course it's not. We just went through that, right? We just talked about that 1 second ago, the last paragraph. It is not unique. She's being treated better than most people. Again, I have friends that really did hard time, horrific time. You want to talk about horrific? The things that they've seen? And none of them were convicted of sex trafficking, folks, all right? So it really agitates me, this whole line that they run about how she's being treated so badly. it's insulting to the people who really are being treated shitty at the hands of the system. Marcus said Tuesday that he is heartbroken in response to the ruling. Oh, wah. That's right, go count your money. How many hours were you on the clock for today? Go count that money, bro. Got nothing accomplished again, captain of the Suck Squad. The worst of the lawyers, in my opinion, is this dude. Steve Scaramucci 2.0 over here. If our system tolerates detaining a 59-year-old woman with no criminal history and subjecting her to torturous conditions simply because of her old connections to Jeffrey Epstein, we should all be deeply troubled, he said. Well, were you deeply troubled when Khalif Browder got lost in the system, my friend? Over supposedly stealing a backpack? Where were you? Were you out in front of Rikers Island leading a rally? You show up at his house, offer his parents some legal aid, perhaps? Nah, you were nowhere to be found, bro. Stop with the virtue signaling. Stop with the gaslighting. Stop trying to manipulate the situation and use it for your own benefit, because guess what? It falls on deaf ears. You're not a champion of the system. You're a champion of the register going cha-ching, and that's just the way it goes, right? I ain't mad at you, but let's call it for what it is, my dude. Maxwell, the ex-girlfriend and alleged accomplice of deceased financier and serial abuser, pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, has been held in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn for the past 9 months as she awaits trial, which is currently scheduled for this July. And again, if I was her, with the 4th bail attempt being denied, I'd be telling my lawyers, look, you dudes better focus on making sure I win at this trial, or at least beat the harshest of these charges. Quit effing around with all this other nonsense. I get it, the meter's running and all, but let's focus on the trial portion of this. Now, if I'm the government, right, and if I'm the survivors and the general public like we are, cool, keep monkeying around. Keep screwing the pooch. Keep acting like a group of monkeys fornicating with a football, because that's what you all look like. It is absolutely ridiculous to watch all of the lame strategies being employed by the defense here, as opposed to just getting to the heart of it. And they talk about a sideshow. They're the sideshow. She was arrested last July and currently faces 6 charges related to the sex trafficking of minors and is accused of grooming and recruiting 4 girls for Epstein's abuse between 1994 and 2004, allegedly participating in the abuse of one of the girls herself. Oh yeah, one of the girls in the charges of record. We all know that there's way deeper allegations than that. Let's not act like these are the only allegations out there. These are the allegations that are being acted upon. If the lames in the 11th Circuit would have done their job and tossed that NPA, we'd have a whole different discussion going on today, folks. But that's all right. It's an uphill battle. No worries. In it for the long haul, right? Well, what, you thought the justice system was going to make it easy, especially in this case? After all of these decades, you just got to expect it at this point, right? What I will say, though, like I said earlier tonight, we have seen a few hints that certain judicial sectors in the judicial system, such as the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, is on to the shtick of the Epsteins and the Maxwells, and they're not buying it anymore. And that bodes very, very, very well for the survivors and for justice moving forward. She faces a separate trial on 2 perjury charges connected to statements she made in 2 depositions in a defamation suit brought against her by Virginia Roberts, an Epstein survivor who has said that Maxwell recruited her when Roberts was about 17 and working as a spa assistant at Mar-a-Lago. Because that's what regular people do, right? They go to Mar-a-Lago and they give spa assistants, young ladies who are spa assistants, jobs as masseuses to massage billionaires or close to billionaires. Because the billionaire scuzzbag can't afford to go get a professional job done, right? That's what they would have you believe. It's so absolutely ridiculous and an assault on our collective intelligence. Federal prosecutors have argued that Maxwell's access to extensive wealth, foreign citizenship in the United Kingdom and France, the latter of which doesn't extradite citizens, and the prospect of decades in prison, if convicted, make Maxwell a serious risk to flee the country to avoid trial. Maxwell initially gave an incomplete accounting of her finances to federal authorities, and her initial bail proposal was short on specific details of what she would offer to guarantee her appearance at trial. Now, we know she's been playing coy the whole time. We know she was ducking and dodging. Oh yeah, that's exactly where, quote-unquote, socialites go, huh? New Hampshire, the place where socialites go to retire, said nobody ever. She went there because she thought she could hide there. She had a security team on duty, trying to slide her phone into the Takis bag. I mean, come on, get real already. We know what you were up to, Maxwell, and so does the court, obviously. And, thankfully, they're not buying it. Judge Nathan rejected that request, as well as two subsequent proposals in which Maxwell offered a bail package worth $28.5 million in assets belonging to her and family and friends, said she would be confined to a residence in New York, and offered to renounce her foreign citizenship, among other conditions. And none of it was good enough, right? Look, this lady poses she's a real threat. And I don't mean she's going to go out on a killing spree or anything like that, but with her vast power, meaning her connections and the people she knows, who the hell knows who she can reach out to? And we know they're not above violence. We know there's been threats made here. We know that there's been people who have said they've been threatened, bullet on their doorstep, threatening letters, that kind of thing. You know, we've heard it all. So I could understand why these survivors would want her to stay in prison, and I could understand why the judge would allow her to stay remanded to the custody of the state. Maxwell was arrested on July 2nd, 2020, at a 156-acre New Hampshire property that had been purchased the previous December through a shell company. Again, shell company. That's why we do the Finson files. That's why we dig into all of the whole entire smorgasbord of Jeffrey Epstein's shadow finances, because it's such a big, looming part of this story that if we don't dig into that deeply, if we don't understand that, how are we going to understand any of this? Maxwell used an offshore company for sure. What do you think? That's the only one she had access to, by the way? And again, I don't have evidence directly. I'm just, going by Occam's razor, right? Maxwell's name had not appeared in any of the sale documents, according to someone with knowledge of the transactions, and federal prosecutors say she had toured the property using a pseudonym. So Maxwell used a pseudonym, right? And her husband had a British accent, and they had this whole story made up about who they were, what they were up to, and why they were purchasing the property. And all of that goes into the judge's decision, right? What do you think? The judge just looks at one certain thing and says, all right, well, she's good to go. We're going to listen to her because David Marcus said she's a quality person, and we should just let her go. I mean, on what planet does that occur? Maxwell's arrest came nearly 1 year after Epstein had been arrested on sex charges in July 2019. Epstein's earlier abuse of dozens of women and a remarkably lenient 2008 plea deal he struck with federal prosecutors was the subject of the Miami Herald's 2018 Perversion of Justice series, and led federal prosecutors to revisit the case and bring new charges against Epstein in July 2019. He died in federal detention 1 month later in what has been ruled a suicide, allegedly. So I hope that the Miami Herald and the rest of these outlets have the same pizzazz to go after somebody like Billy Boy Clinton, right? Let's see it, Miami Herald. Let's see all of that great journalistic work put into effect. Go as hard after him as you did on Acosta. We got the Acosta piece off of the board. What about Bill Clinton? What about Hillary? What about all of the ties that bind? That's the 500-pound elephant, the 1,500-pound elephant in the room, or 15,000-pound elephant in the room, or whatever the hell you want to say. Either way, none of the legacy media doesn't want to talk about it, and you got those new pictures out from 1993. So I'd really like to see a little bit of pep in the step of the Miami Herald when it comes to Bill Clinton. Maxwell has complained bitterly about her conditions behind bars, which her lawyers have said is a direct response to Epstein's death in custody. Maxwell's lawyers have said that she is being kept in solitary confinement, the food and the water in the jail is unpalatable, and that the wellness checks throughout the night prevent her from getting a full night's sleep. Yeah, I know, I get it. The bologna sandwiches aren't lettuce wraps. I understand. The food is not top-notch. I get it. The sleeping conditions, not great. Understood. Do I have any empathy for you? No, I do not. Again, the whole thing about stupid games, stupid prizes, yeah. They have complained that the computer she has access to doesn't allow her to search the volumes of potential evidence turned over by the government, making it extremely difficult for her to prepare for her case, and, in the appeal, argued that her detention is, get this, sexist, given that high-profile men such as Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, and Dominique Strauss-Kahn have been granted bail in the past. Clinging to everything. Remember, first, it was because the grand jury from Westchester wasn't diverse enough. Now she's a big proponent of the Me Too movement. It's such a slap in the face to people who have truly been victimized. It's a slap in the face to those who have turned into survivors. But Maxwell has no shame, right? She doesn't care. Prosecutors have countered that the conditions of her confinement are designed to protect her and that she is granted more time to access her computer than any other inmate in the Brooklyn facility. That's a fact. Those procedures are there to protect her, folks. If she was put on the main line, if she was in GP, it would be on site. For those of you in the suburbs who don't know what that means, on site means the second she's seen by insert gangs here, she's greenlit. And it would be a big feather in their cap and maybe even a bounty out on her. That's what happens on the main line to people like her. And that's just the reality of jail. So when they talk about putting her on the main line, I find it laughable. Because if she got hurt, something happened to her, then it would be the huge thing all over again. And the government finds themselves in a position that is certainly a catch-22. So I say definitely err on the side of caution here and keep her in solitary confinement. Maxwell has been accused by numerous Epstein survivors of combing schools and spas to find girls to satisfy Epstein's sexual appetite and grooming and recruiting those girls for Epstein's abuse. Oh yeah, didn't she call them what? Nubiles, I believe, is one of the terms she liked to use. Her terms of endearment for her prey, for these young girls who had dreams and hopes and aspirations stolen from them and shattered under the heels of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. That same lady, right? That's who we're talking about here? Maxwell's presence as an adult woman helped put the survivors at ease as Maxwell and Epstein intended, said Audrey Strauss, the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, in announcing the charges against Maxwell last July. Roberts has said that Maxwell and Epstein directed her to have sex with a number of high-profile friends, including Britain's Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, former U.S. Senator George Mitchell, former New Mexico governor and best bud of Bill Clinton, Bill Richardson, hotel magnate and cousin or brother of J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, and prominent defense attorney Alan, I kept my underpants on, Dershowitz. All of the men have denied the claims, and Dershowitz and Roberts have each sued each other for defamation. I mean, I don't know where the guy finds the time for all of these defamation suits. I mean, is it after the naked volleyball occurs over there at Martha's Vineyard or before? Is it after you're oogling at your neighbors who are on the privacy of their own property, or before? We got some questions there, Mr. I Kept My Underpants On. Maxwell is currently scheduled to go to trial in July, though her legal team requested that the trial date be pushed back after prosecutors unveiled a new indictment last month that added the fourth survivor and added additional sex trafficking charges. Nathan, the district judge, has said that she will be deciding on whether or not to push the trial back soon. So, again, for the fourth time, Ghislaine Maxwell and her requests have been thoroughly smacked down by the courts. Not only that, not only has Judge Nathan told her no, not only has the federal court told her no, but there's no other place for her to turn now. What is she going to go to the Supreme Court? By the time they decide if they're going to hear her case or not, the trial will be here. So she has nowhere left to turn. And Ghislaine Maxwell is not going to get bailed out, it looks like, folks. It looks like, as of right now, that Ghislaine Maxwell has been hit with the final slappage by the courts in regards to bail. And that final request, or the fourth request, which, I mean, I can't see the court giving her another chance, right? Went to the appeals court, and that's the end of it, usually, unless you go to the Supreme Court. So, Ghislaine Maxwell, fourth attempt, judges have ruled, and her ask to be granted for bail has been denied. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, folks, you know the deal. I will be back tomorrow morning, and we'll figure it out from there. All right, everybody, have a great night.
Nevadans are battle-born, but lately we've been tested like never before. So when COVID came to Nevada, Senator Cortez Masto went to work. She got loans for small businesses that saved 500,000 Nevada jobs and worked with President Biden to provide stimulus checks and tax cuts. Senator Cortez Masto got new funding to keep Nevada's first responders on the job, too. Call Senator Cortez Masto at 202-224-3542 and tell her to keep delivering relief for Nevada. Paid for by Majority Forward.
Walmart.com is launching deals for days starting at 7 p.m. on June 20th with huge savings on the hottest items. Up to 40% off select tech, up to 50% off select toys, and up to 60% off summer fashion items. Get the deals while supplies last. That's deals for days starting June 20th at Walmart.com.